Hi, this is Ashley Castillo, and today I will be doing a book review on The Big Sword: Why the Clustering of Like-Minded America is Tearing Us Apart. So personally, I really enjoyed the videos that we watched in class, the discussions we had in class relating to The Big Sword, because it is honestly something so true what is discussed in the book, and it's very interesting to see all of these ideas develop into Bishop's book, The Big Sword. So to begin with, Bill Bishop was inspired to do this book because he had a Republican neighbor. He moved into Austin, Texas, and he lived in an all-white, I mean not all-white, but in mostly maybe like 99% except for that his neighbor, Democratic neighborhood. So Bill Bishop himself is a Democrat, and he lives in a Democratic neighborhood, and he had this neighbor who was a Republican, and nobody in the neighborhood liked him because they did not agree with his political views. So nobody really befriended him except for Bill Bishop, who obviously seems to be the most open-minded Republican in that neighborhood. And he talked about how they had very interesting discussions, that it was very interesting to him to talk with a person who had an opposing point of view. And it really obviously educated him and made him think about the other side while he was still a Democrat. And he still respected his friend, and he said that that was one of his best friends. And then his friend moved away, and he moved to another neighborhood in Austin, which was mostly Republican. So then he noticed how people move into regions that are like them. People move into areas that have people with similar beliefs to them. And doing this makes you more polarized on your beliefs. So if you're a Democrat and you hang out with nothing but Democrats, liberals, you're going to be more liberal rather than open-minded. Even though a liberal is usually open-minded, you won't be open to any new ideas because you're just hanging out with those people. Now, if you hang out with a conservative, you are likely going to mix in to your beliefs. So Bill Bishop talked about this and how there's a fly, how the diversity, how hanging out with people who are different from you make you understand them better. And that was just a very interesting concept, how we sort ourselves. That's why the book is called The Big Sort, because we sort ourselves, and America has been sorting themselves. So before politics, before the sort, it was mostly, the nation wasn't really divided. People were living in areas that there wasn't really a big divide. And I believe that the reason why there wasn't really a big divide is because politics back then didn't really touch on cultural and social issues. And that is the thing that divides the nation the most, I believe. Because nobody grew up like you, because culture is just something so different. And I completely understand why somebody wouldn't want to believe what you believe, and it's simply because they didn't grow up that way, so they didn't believe that. How are you going to change a person's mind, especially an adult mind, that is fully developed and their whole life they have had these thoughts? And you can't, it's very difficult to change a person after their many years of living and completely change their thoughts. It is something very difficult to do. And that's why politics has now become so polarized, because we've incorporated cultural and social issues into politics, and nobody can agree on that because we all grew up differently. We all grew up with different points of views, and it is one of the most difficult things to change. I feel like changing your point of view is one of the most difficult things to do because you've grown up believing this your whole life, and it's just very difficult to one day wake up or hear somebody talk. It's when you're strong in what you stand, nothing moves you. You might hear somebody talk about it, but you're still not going to believe that. And that's why I think politics are so polarized nowadays, because they only believe what they want to believe. Another reason why they're so polarized, it's because they want to hang out with people who have the same beliefs as them. They don't want to, like Bill Bishop, be open to a person with different beliefs from them. And it's just polarizing the country. We see it more and more. This book was written after the 2004 President Bush election. So even then, there was a big sort, but now 2017, after Trump, there is a bigger divide in the nation. And if this was an issue back then, it is a bigger issue now. There is seriously a big divide going on in the country. And when the nation was first founded, they wanted separation from church and state. And I understand it perfectly. So back then, people's beliefs and their social issues were attached to the church because people were usually religious. So these issues were belief issues, and they had to do with the church. So I feel like America is following that pattern, but now our religion, but from England, and why people wanted to separate. They just became so polarized because they didn't want to incorporate church and state, so they created their own country. But the reason why I feel like nowadays we're so polarized, and I know that history is a cycle, and I feel like it's happening again. I don't know if to the extent to make people create their own country or just move out of the country, but I definitely do know that back then the cultural and social issues were more like the church issues, because those are belief-based issues. So cultural issues and social issues relate to your beliefs as well as church issues. So when the nation was founded, they did not want to mix in church and state because it would polarize, because everybody grew up different, everybody grew up with different ideas, and everybody wanted to do what they wanted to do. Now, the new church, I would say, not exactly, but it's kind of like a comparison. Something that I could compare is the way that people grow up, their culture, and their social status, their social beliefs. So because these are beliefs, just like a church, it is causing problems in politics. That's why I believe that when the nation was founded, they wanted to separate church and state. And this was just cultural and social issues have just been incorporated into our politics in the 70s, and it is creating a big divide. And I understand why the founding fathers did not want us to mix in church and state, because beliefs cause problems in politics, and they are polarizing the country, and that's exactly what they wanted to avoid. But it seems like people forget that cultural beliefs, that beliefs are beliefs, and they cause issues in our nation. And it's just tearing people apart because people don't want to hang out with people that don't think like them. And me personally, I take a lot of pride in the fact that my friend group is very diverse. I do consider myself a liberal, but I do also have a conservative background. It's a divide, but I pride myself a lot in the fact that my friends are very diverse. My best friend is Arabic and Black. I have a Pacific Islander, Asian, Hispanic, me. So it is mixed friends. I have white, black. So we all come from different households. We all believe different things. We all grew up very differently according to the culture that we grew up with. And we have a lot of different beliefs, and we do have discussions, even though we're all liberals. We do have discussions that are mind stimulating, not necessarily in politics, but just in the way of living. Before I attended this school, I went to a predominantly Hispanic school. And I mean, my school is predominantly Hispanic, but I hang out with a more diverse group of friends. But before, I would hang out with mostly Hispanics. And even when I was younger, it just didn't occur to me that people ate different things than me. And that just demonstrates how diverse we are, and how it just never occurred to me that not everybody ate beans and rice and tortillas like it is a stereotype for Hispanics. Those are personally like one of my favorite foods. It just didn't occur to me that not everybody ate that. And as America, I knew that we ate pizza, we ate macaroni and cheese, we ate hot dogs, but it didn't occur to me that every culture had their foods. It was just so, whenever I realized that, I was like, wow, like, even though I live in Houston, it is a very diverse city. There's a lot of different diverse restaurants around the city. I never thought, it just didn't occur to me that not everybody ate what I ate, and that they used different condiments than the ones that I used, and the ones that I grew up with, and the ones that I was used to. And that just demonstrates how different we are. And because we grew up with those condiments, because we grew up eating those foods, our taste buds have adjusted to that. So so there's foods that I just can't eat that my friends are used to eating, like maybe Indian food. Some Indian food and Arabic food I can eat, but some I just don't like. And those are foods that my friends grew up with, and their taste buds have adjusted to that. So that's just how difficult it is to change a person when the roots of them are just so embedded, when they're literally, their physical body has gotten used to it, like the taste buds, like they just get used to something, and you can't change. It's something that, well, apparently taste buds change every 7 years, so to have like a diverse tongue, you would need to eat a lot of different foods. But if you are not like that, if you don't have a diverse tongue, if you don't hang out with people with different thoughts as you're going to stick to your own beliefs and not believe anybody else's. And that just demonstrates, it's just a concept that I feel like we all know, but it's just in the back of our minds. Like, there's things that we know, but if we're not told those things, we don't really realize them. So I'm going to move on because I could talk about that for forever. And it's just so interesting how Bill Bishop wrote about it. So without even conducting elections, people already know what state is going to vote for what state. That was another thing that was mentioned in the book, because of the people that live there. So I live in the city of Houston, the most diverse city in the world, and I take a lot of pride in that because I want to consider myself an open-minded person. So Houston is very diverse, and because of their diversity, they seem to be more liberals, more Democrats, but there are also parts of Texas. I'm also from Texas. Houston is in Texas. I know that there are parts in Texas that I don't exactly want to go to because they just don't like people that look like me, that talk like me, that eat what I eat because of my culture. And it's just, that just demonstrates I don't want to go there because I don't want to be judged. And I can personally, just recently, I had a project for econ, and I decided to do about the economy in Mexico. So I decided to also add the transnational issues, but the transnational issues in Mexico are very much stereotypes, although there is other issues. But one of the biggest issues is obviously drug dealing and illegal immigration. And it's kind of double-sided because a lot of Central Americans are illegally migrating to Mexico to live in Mexico for a better life, or to just be there for a while and come to the United States. So it was very difficult for me to add those things into the project, and I didn't know if I should add it because my teacher I have personally taken offense to some of the things that she has said about my culture, about Mexicans, and it's difficult to hang out with people that don't believe like you because you are judged. And it was difficult, even though this was a real issue, it's difficult to talk about it because it's a stereotype. So people are going to believe it. And even though not everybody is like that, people are still like that. And it's just so sad that people just, and it's just, there's just things that you don't, a lot of reasons why people don't hang out with people that are different from them is because they just don't want to be judged. They know what's going to happen. You're going to be bashed for not thinking like them, for not being like them, because you didn't grow up the way they grew up. So like I said, Houston is very diverse, and it's the cities that usually vote Democratic and are liberals because of our increase in technology. I also believe that we're more diverse, not because we have a lot of people, but that I believe that we're more diverse, not only as a city because of our diversity in culture, but also as time progresses, everybody is just becoming more liberal, because even if you don't live in a big city, even though rural areas are usually Republicans, you are likely to have technology that connects you to somebody across the world from you. So whenever you have the phone in your hands, you have the world in your hands. You can connect with anybody. You obviously decide what you see, but what you decide, but you decide what you watch. But if you have a phone, if you have technology, you're more likely to interact with people of other cultures and become accepting of them because they've become a part of your daily life. So Houston, or just cities, because of their higher technology, because of their diversity of people, are usually more liberals. And I believe that as time progresses, rural areas will also become more liberal because of the increase in technology. But obviously, the increase of technology takes a little longer in those areas. So another interesting thing is that religion is based off of who you hang out also, because you join a new church because of a recommendation from somebody, from a friend of yours, a relative, and somebody that you believe because they have similar beliefs as you. So you go and you try different churches, and you just go to the one that's best fit for you, which is obviously surrounded by people with similar beliefs as you, so you yourself become more polarized without even realizing it. So like I mentioned, also, like, the way where you live reflects who you are, because if you live in a more diverse place, you're obviously more accepting of others, but also depending on the social economic matter of your city or of the region where you live affects it, because if you live in a lower income area, people that have lower income are likely to live there because of the surrounding area, that it's more affordable. They have things that are just more affordable. In a higher income area, everything is much more expensive. So lower income people are obviously not going to live there. So you're hanging out with people that are like you again. And not only as people do we become more polarized, but brands was also mentioned, that they create a personality to attract the consumer. And I've seen it a lot of times that brands come out with their beliefs and they lose and they gain a lot of followers accordingly, because they attract people that have those beliefs, shoppers that have those beliefs, and they just and a lot of people just want to support brands that believe like they believe. But also I believe that it's something very difficult for brands to do, because if you don't talk about an issue, if you talk about an issue, you're hated, you're loved and hated. But by the people that don't think like you, they bash you, they speak negatively of you. And for the people that actually, but if you don't say something about an issue that's going on, you're also judged because you're not standing up for anything. So honestly, it is very difficult to live nowadays with this sort, with this, with the issues that we are having nowadays. This, we're just sorting ourselves, and as time progresses, we're becoming more open-minded. But like Bill Clinton said, we just don't want to be around the people that don't think like us. And that's just a very, very interesting concept. And I hope that more people start to realize it, and more people start to hang out with people that don't think like them and that didn't grow up like them, so they can begin to understand them more, and we could become a more unified society. It would also be helpful if, even though it sounds horrible, and like I said, if whatever you say, not everybody's gonna, some people are going to agree with you, some people are not. But separation of church and state, separation of beliefs was established for a reason, because it divides the country. So to solve these issues, even though it sounds horrible, like I said, there should be no culture, and social issues shouldn't be a part of politics, because politics is the way you run a country, should be the way that you run a country, not the way that you make, politics should be the way that you run a country, not the way that you tell people how to live their lives. So that was my review and my thoughts that the big sort sprung on me. And it was just very interesting. And I hope that you enjoyed it. Have a good day.